guys who went into physical silver. They started actually buying futures in the early 70s and taking delivery in the early 70s. And I suspect it's because when Nixon closed the gold window in 71, they knew what was coming in terms of inflation, but they couldn't buy gold, so they started with silver. But then they got over their heads a little bit, and the regulators and the Fed came after them. But when you have dozens of small, not small, of course they're billionaires, but dozens of people with a lot of wealth, and maybe half of them start buying silver like that, it could make a huge difference. And I agree with Andy Schechtman. I've been telling people ever since I started following gold, when I bought my first Krugerrands in '02, I noticed that the markets behaved in a funny fashion, like they did the same thing at a certain time every day, which is unusual for markets. And then I discovered GATA, Gold Antitrust Action Committee, and Bill Murphy. And that's one of the things he said. Physical, you need physical, you need to take delivery. But on these exchanges like COMEX, unless you're a big fish, they're not gonna make it easy for you to take delivery. I think 2 or 3 years ago, Rafi Faber with a few other guys tried to take a delivery of one contract of silver, which is 5,000 ounce bar, and they made it so hard they had to give up in the end. It's definitely the kryptonite, taking delivery, and I think it was one of the reasons why they created because the bankers are behind these ETFs. They created the gold ETF, I think it was '04, if I'm not mistaken, and they created SLV as well, because that basically makes people not go for physical, because people want convenience and they don't want the hassle of buying. For some reason, people think it's a hassle to buy physical gold and silver, which I think is crazy, but that's what it does. I saw that today on X, someone came out that a company in Japan called Tanaka Precious Metals, they had a program where you could buy physical silver, I think, and keep it in their vaults. And now they're saying that as of December, or when the program ends, you're going to get your cash settlement, not physical. So it's really difficult to trust all these ETFs and things like that. But in terms of manipulation, you're saying about the manipulation of gold and silver, some people might say, well, if they've been manipulating it, how come the price is going so much higher? And my retort, or my answer to that, is that they try to keep the public scared of going into gold and silver, because sometimes they come in and they smash the price and they create a lot of volatility. And I don't know if you've seen this, Jesse. Back in the 70s, there was communication between the London bullion dealers and the US Treasury and also the State Department about the coming legalization of gold on January 1st, 1975. And one of the dealers in London said, yes, the creation of a futures market should help keep Americans away from hoarding physical gold, because it's going to create a lot of volatility, and the futures market is going to dwarf the physical market. So that's how they do it. But I think people are waking up to the fact that the only real way to own gold and silver is to buy the real thing. And I think the billionaire there, Mr. Baitman, is an example of that.
You pointed out on your channel recently that Japanese government bonds and silver are pointing to a major financial upheaval. Break down what you're seeing there for us.
Yeah, silver, I guess the reason why I said that is because the last two times well, the only two times silver went to around $50. Back in the late 70s, early 80s, we saw almost a breakdown of the dollar system. We saw the US Treasury issuing bonds in Deutschmark and Swiss francs. They were called the Carter bonds. So that was like I think a signal that things weren't well, and silver, having been the money of the masses for thousands of years, reflected that. And the same thing, I guess, in 2011, we saw the European sovereign debt crisis in the countries of the south of the EU, like Portugal, Italy, Ireland, Greece, and Spain. I know Ireland is not in the south, but it was kind of in the same fiscal situation. And silver that year, when that crisis started, 2011, went to 50. So that's why I mentioned silver. The JGB market, that's the Japanese government bond. I've been covering it for years on my channel, that eventually all the debt and liquidity created by the Bank of Japan, and all the debt that's been taken by the government there, is going to come home to roost. We've been told by the Keynesians and mainstream economists that Japan has always been in a danger of deflation, but in the last 12 months, I think rice prices went up 100%. So the public, they're starting to feel the pinch. They know that deflation is really not there. And by deflation, I mean falling prices. I know that deflation is the collapse of the money supply, but things get confused a little bit. But now in Japan, the long-term yields for JGBs are spiking massively, and they could spike even more starting this week, because we had an election this past weekend in Japan, and the government lost its majority in the upper house, and that's quite serious because of the opposition. They want more fiscal stimulus, they want more tax cuts, and the Ministry of Finance and the Bank of Japan, they're trying to rein in all this money printing and liquidity. So this is throwing a spanner in the works. It could spook investors, and JGB yields could rise even further, and that weakness and drop in JGB prices could spread to treasuries and other government bonds, like the gilts and the European government bonds. So that's why I think it's very important to keep an eye on silver and Japan.
What are your thoughts on these continued tariffs, just piling tariff upon tariff? And now Trump is talking about 15 to 20% tariff on all EU goods, more tariffs for Canada, China, 50% tariff on Brazil for some reason. The list goes on. He also threatened a new 100% tariff on BRICS member nations, and 100% tariff on any countries daring to import Russian oil. I mean, what is going on here? What are the implications of this, if it's all ever fully implemented? Because Trump also likes to go back and forth and then, say we've come to an agreement, take the tariffs off the table, put them back on the table. What's going on here in your view?
Well, I think it just creates a lot of uncertainty, and I've said this in the past. The reason why the U.S. is running such huge trade and current account deficits is not because other countries want to rip them off. It's because America is running on a credit bubble, and it has been doing that virtually ever since Nixon closed the gold window. They've had the exorbitant privilege to just print dollars out of thin air, while the rest of the world has had to earn dollars and work for it. So but I don't think it's going to get any better, Jesse, because I don't see Trump or Bessent talking about reining in the Fed, maybe abolishing the Fed and bringing back sound money and allowing the free market to basically iron out all these credit booms and busts, because that's what happened in the 19th century. And overall, the U.S. had like a balanced trade because there were no central banks from 1835 to 1913. But as I said, it looks like now Besson and whoever's going to be nominated as the next Fed chairman, they want to join up with the Treasury and pump things up even more. I mean, we're supposed to be in a great economy in the US, but they still want to cut rates down to 1. Doesn't make sense. So that's how I see tariffs. They're just a distraction. They're not going to solve anything. I think the only way this problem is going to be solved is through a major collapse of everything, and then people will have to sober up, and not just Americans. Here in the UK as well, we run big trade and current account deficits. Maybe not as big as the US, but yeah, we'll have to sober up. We'll have to start working and producing and earning our keep in the world. And that's how I see it. As for the sanctions, they haven't really worked that well, have they? All the sanctions against Russia or other countries. All it's done is made them even more determined to create an alternative to the G7 or to the West. And I saw that Trump said that there's a small group called BRICS. You know, it's falling apart. I mean, he's in total denial, I think. And you know, BRICS now is 45% of the world's population. It's growing, 40% of GDP. And I'm not defending BRICS nor the West. I'm just looking at things and yeah, seeing how they're gonna evolve. Because if you believe in what politicians tell you, it's going to hurt you financially, I think.
Well, let's talk about the big, beautiful bill for a moment here, because obviously it was sold to the American public as a 100% benefits for you. We're cutting taxes. All these great things are going to happen because of it. Trump signs it, I believe it was on the 4th of July, and the military planes flew overhead and there was fireworks. It was just the most epic propaganda ever. But some detractors have pointed out that they estimate it's going to add $3 trillion to the debt burden, somewhere around there. So what's the point of this whole thing? It seems like Trump campaigned on cutting spending. He had Doge come in and they were going to cut government waste, and now it seems they're just going the complete opposite direction. What are your thoughts on this bill? Is it cause for concern? Is there anything to be optimistic about here?
Yeah, I even heard him saying he was asked by a reporter about this before he signed it, and they're still negotiating. And the reporter said, don't you think it's going to add to the deficit? And he said, no, to cut the deficit and the debt, we need to spend before that. That's what he's hoping will happen, that they'll borrow and spend so much that it will kickstart the economy. And I mean, historically, I've done a bit of studying about this, and it's never worked in the past. If countries could borrow and spend their way out of debt and out of fiscal difficulties, Zimbabwe, Brazil, Argentina, Lebanon, and others would be the richest countries in the world, and they're not. So I don't think it's going to work. Any upsides? Well, upside to it, I think, yeah, there will be upside to the people at the top 1%. They're going to rake it in because they have assets. But for the general public, that it's supposed to help the general public, I think they're going to suffer because even though Trump says the price of eggs has come down, I think generally the cost of living is going to keep rising because the dollar is going to keep falling, and people sometimes don't understand that if your currency falls, that's actually that's basically currency debasement. That's the consequence of inflation, and yeah, the big beautiful bill will raise inflation because there's going to be more government spending. There will be tax cuts, but yeah, I'm not sure if it's going to pan out. And as well, I think the Fed will probably definitely cut rates aggressively next year, when, or even before, in case Mr. Powell resigns, and that will actually have the inverse effect that they want on long-term interest rates. I saw that Besant said that cutting rates would free up the mortgage market, but mortgage rates have gone up since Powell cut rates last year. The Fed cut rates. The 10-year yield has gone up from 3.6 to 4.4. So I think it could actually backfire. So yeah, the big beautiful bill, I think it's, I mean, I would hope that it would work, but that would, yeah, I don't see it working. The chance of it working is very, very small. And I think in a few years' time, there will be another bigger and more beautiful bill, because it might in the beginning juice up the economy, but then